Welcome to our Wise Tribe podcast. If you're over 40, we need to talk. We'll be discussing the issues that are relevant to you: family, health, relationships, finances, and more. Expert guests will be sharing tips to keep you on track, and of course, we'll have a little fun along the way. Thanks for tuning in to the Wise Podcast.
Hi everybody, my name is Claire Pink and I am one of the founders of Our Wise Tribe, and we are here today to do our first podcast. Dun, dun, dun. Really excited to be able to share all sorts of different educators and specialists and experts on all the stuff that we need to have a talk about. You know, being over 40, it gets tough. It gets, really interesting. We're really busy. We've got everything going on from all sides. We've got kids, we've got family, we've got work, we've got relationships to deal with. We've got to earn the money to pay for everything that we want to do. And there's a lot of stress that comes with that. So the aim of Our Wise Tribe is to really collaborate together, and almost, life is easier when we come together and collaborate and share stories and, support each other. It's not about all the millennial stuff of selfies and pictures on the beach with bikinis. It's just us. It's me. It's you. It's us. It's Our Wise Tribe. So this is what we're coming together to achieve for you guys, to create a community, a group of all our like-minded people over that hump of 40 who still want to really get as much out of life as possible. So welcome to Our Wise Tribe. We are so excited to have you. So coming up now is our very first podcast with Gillian Arndale, talking about family relationships and family dynamics, and she's got some really good tips to share with us. So I hope you enjoy the first one, and let us know what you think. Give us the feedback. If there's anything that pops up that you really want to talk about, just drop us a message. Go to ourwisetribe.com and just click on the link, share your story, and share it with us. And we can take it from there, and we can maybe get an expert in to help you. Okay, cool. All right. Let's leave it at that, and let's go on to the podcast now. Podcast 1. Okay. Hi, Gillian. How are you? Welcome to our very first Wise Tribe podcast. We're super excited to have you here. So just bear with me a little bit, guys. A little bit of understanding. This is my very first podcast. So if I stuff up, it's all good. We will just keep going because that's how we roll here at Our Wise Tribe. So I would just like to give you all a fabulous introduction to this fabulous lady who I have known now for, Gillian, it'll be knocking on
6 years.
6 years. I'd say 6 years now. Gillian and I were on a few courses together back in the day. So we've been kept in contact since, and I just love the work that Gillian does. Plus, it's perfect for our age group, for Our Wise Tribe, because over 40, obviously our children are getting a little bit older, and our children tend to test us. It's just a different stage of life with the children. Once you hit over that 40 mark, and they hit you with all different things from teenagers to older to when they're grown up, and even when they've left home, there's still going to be a challenge. So today it is my honor to introduce to you Gillian Arndale. She's from Family Relationship Dynamics. Gillian has a wealth of experience throughout her professional career with different senior roles in project management, and also has lived in many different countries as a result of that, which I think is really key, because I've traveled a little bit too, and you actually get to see how different people work in different countries. So that's really, really important. Project management is also another one of Gillian's key passions. So she's also a mum of 2 children, and over the years, a lot of that was particularly as a single mum. So there's a lot of experience that comes through that as well. And I'm sure you have got a wealth of experience to share with us today. And also the author of an Amazon best-selling book called Second Chances: The Ultimate Guide to Marrying Again for the Second Time. Now, when we first met, this was definitely part of your structure at the time. So please, Gillian, take the floor and introduce yourself a little bit more and tell us what you're up to.
Okay, thanks, Claire. It's great to be here, and I'm really happy that I can share with your listeners a little bit more about the work that I do and why I'm so passionate about it. And yes, I have got 2 children, but I also have 4 stepchildren, and together we have 14 grandchildren. So we have pretty much experienced most things that a family would experience over time, including my husband Steve having a very serious illness, and we've also had divorces within the children as well. So it's been a great learning curve, and my life experiences are really backed up very much with the studying that I've done over the last 19 years with some of the really greatest masters that teach us about human behavior. And that's where I really see my strength now, is that I've become like a human behavior specialist. And that's what I apply to the family environment, but very much bringing in my corporate and life experiences. So I'm now very much focusing on helping professional working mothers and families, doesn't matter what type of family they are. And I basically call myself the modern mother mentor.
That sounds lovely. I really like that, the modern mother mentor, because obviously, as a mum myself, it is hard. You have no idea if you're doing the right thing, if you're reacting to a situation in the right way. And the little cherubs, they like to spice things up with all sorts of different problems. And the differences between kids. I've got 3 kids that are just completely different. And, that comes with its own challenges.
Yes.
So let me ask you this one question. What are the biggest challenges for parents over 40?
Okay. Well, I've actually got 7 challenges, but I'm only going to focus on 3 today. And the first one is guilt. Most parents that I know today in this modern world, with so much going on in their lives, most women are now working. So you've got a dual working family, or if it's a single mum, you've got the mum who's working, and guilt probably comes in as the biggest thing. Am I spending enough time? Are my children going off the rails? What else could I do differently? Am I letting my career suffer because I'm focused too much on the family? All those sorts of questions. And my answer to guilt is, what would you do differently? And is the areas that you're worrying about really something that's going to damage your children? And then to look at the other side of it. What actually are they benefiting from you not being there? Are they getting the insights of another carer, of another person? Are they seeing the world from a different perspective rather than just your perspective? So they're learning about different people's values, and I'll talk a little bit more about driving values in a minute. Or are they learning to be more independent and building resilience? If there's a number one skill that we should give our children as a parent, it's resilience, the ability to bounce back. And the only way that you can give children resilience is by letting them try things and for actually experiencing for themselves. We can tell a child not to bounce on the bed 100 times until they fall off. It's when they fall off that they actually learn the lesson, not the number of lectures that we've given them. So the first thing I want to focus on is really in our busy lives, and especially as you get to be over 40, you do have more responsibilities. Quite often you're more senior in your role, so you're juggling more, more business, more decisions, more pressure, more stress. So the number one thing is to say, why am I feeling guilty and what can I do about it? The other thing with guilt is very much about prioritization. We can't do everything, whether we're a working mum and dad or whether we're at home. We still can't do everything. And what a lot of us don't do is actually take time out from our own world of guilt and actually place ourselves in our children's world and say to them, or discuss with them and really level with them and be transparent and say, well, what's important to you? So just as an example, if your child's receiving a reward or some form of recognition at school, at an assembly, that might be much more important to them for you to attend than a sports day. So, but on the other hand, if they're really a sports child and they think they're going to really do well at the sports day, they might be much more keen for you to go to the sports day, and they're not so bothered about the certificate that they're going to get in assembly. So it's very much about coming out of your world and putting yourself in their world and explaining to them, I can't attend everything and I'm there to support you and I'm always going to be there to support you. But, what's important to you? And again, that comes back to values, which I'll talk about in a minute. And the other thing is to really, engage those people around you. If you're lucky enough to have family close by, which I never did, because being an expat, my family was all in the UK and I was in Bermuda and Singapore and such like. But I found that nothing's ever missing. And I had friends who were of a grandparent age, and there were a few times where I said to them, do you think you could go to the school and support Catherine? And they were absolutely thrilled to be asked. So it's not always a chore. We feel that we don't want to put on people, but there are other people around who are actually really there to to them it would be a pleasure and it'd be an honor.
Yeah, to support. I mean, yeah, and almost they would love to be able to be involved probably in a deeper way, because they probably adore your children anyway, and to them that's some way to get engaged into the family unit as well. That's a really good point. That's a really good point. And I like the point you make about them taking, everybody has their own spin on things. So you're not just being in one situation just with me as a mother, to draw from grandparents or friends or aunties or whatever and all their experiences too.
That's right. So really the number one thing is to get rid of the guilt, because your children are going to turn out great anyway, just by the foundation that you give them. So you feeling guilty, all you're doing is putting the stress on yourself, which probably leads me to the next point, which is very much about looking after yourself. Once you get to, over 40, then you really do have to be aware of your own health. You can't bounce back as quickly. And if you start putting your family, your children, your work above yourself, then if you crumble and get sick, all of those are going to be affected anyway. So putting yourself first and looking after your nutrition, your energy, your mental mindset is also absolutely paramount, because that's where you're actually serving your other responsibilities better than anything else.
Yeah, no, I definitely see the value of the whole, self-love, and you just got to care for yourself. It gets crazy and hard as you get older, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's not till you get to your 50s and 60s do you start to actually realize how that depleting of your energy and the continuous stress is a continuous build-up. It's not something that comes and goes. It actually adds on. Every time you have a new stress, it adds on, and then it catches up with you with adrenal problems, thyroid, or unfortunately worse still, some form of cancer or such like. So it's not something that you can go back and correct. It's making sure that you actually do look after yourself.
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting thought too. You think, oh, yeah, it's crazy, and yes, I'm going too hard, and everything, and I'll catch up, but you don't actually catch up. Like you say, it's a continuation of stress build up. So it's not like suddenly one holiday and it's all going to go away.
That's right.
You've got to control that. Yeah.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. So other things that really that impact you alluded to it in the early part of this podcast, Claire, and that is about children. By the time we get to our 40s, now I was 32 and 35 when I had my two, so I would feel quite qualified to talk about this one, and that is how the children mature and the relationship changes with the parents. Up to about the age of 9, us parents, we're the center of their world. We have a lot of control. They will do pretty much what we tell them to do without too much pushback and argument, because we're very much the center of their world. From about 9 onwards, can be a little bit later if you're lucky, they start to move towards that adolescence, and that move towards maturity and independence. And that's where most parents begin to really struggle, because from being the center of their world, by the time they reach teenagers, they feel like they're not even in their world. And in fact, they're an embarrassment to their world. And this is just normal developmental process. And not recognizing this is probably the number one problem that a parent can face. Actually recognizing that it's not personal, it's actually part of the maturity process is really important. There's a really good reason why many cultures have a rite of passage ritual within their within their culture. We in the Western world don't tend to have that, but it is something that is recognized, that there is a time when children need to break away from the family, if not physically, at least mentally. And the way that we can handle that is, as I say, first of all, is not take it personally, not think it's all about me and I'm doing things wrong. But it's about being open and honest. It's about actually understanding what's important to the children, to the young people. And I've mentioned a couple of times values, and we all have a set of values, and it's actually being able to identify what the most important values are. And it's probably not, and it's not things like love, compassion. Those are more virtues, and those are things that we can instill really right from day one and continue to instill in our young people. And it's amazing how things that you do instill along those lines, caring for people and showing respect, they might seem to have got a bit hidden during the teenage years, but I can tell you from experience, it's amazing once they reach their 20s how a lot of those foundations that you set early on actually come back, and you go, oh, well, they did learn that after all. So it's not so much virtues, it's more about values. And it may be often it's video games is a really high value to them. It could be their friends. It could be that they really hope, this is a hopeful one, that they really want to do well in their schooling because they actually have a target. It may just be that their value is their looks. Unfortunately, in teenagers, quite often that is a very high value, and so everything that they do, whatever they have money for, when they've got time, it's always going to go towards what's their highest value. So if you can understand what it is that's really important to your young people, you can then talk to them in that value. So if they're soccer mad, let's say, if you want them to do something, then, and it's important to you that it gets done, then you trade it off against them having time to, go and play or practice their soccer. And you're going to get a much better response than poo-pooing, if you like, that soccer's important to them, or ignoring that it is, but just recognizing and being able to talk to them much more in their, at their level, at what's important to them rather than what's important to you.
Yeah, I see that as a key takeaway, identifying, and each kid's going to be different. So identifying the value. I've been busily writing down notes because it's just awesome stuff. To identify the value of each child, because they're all different and they have different hobbies and etc. And being able to bring the best out of them from that, and almost, using that as a, not negotiating, but as a tool in your toolkit to be able to really engage with them. That's really, really, really interesting stuff. And I'm sure very relevant to a lot of our Wise Tribe members who will be going through, all the different stages that you're talking about there. That's really good. Really good.
What my business involves is very much actually helping families to understand the individual personalities of each of the families, basically what makes each family member tick. And as you said, you've got 3 children, all with very different personalities. And using some tools that I have, I can actually identify what those, what the different types of personalities are. And then from that, you can understand how to communicate with them in a way that's most meaningful, how they learn best, even how to discipline them based on the different personality types. If they're much more reserved, if they're what we call it steel energy in the particular system I use, but much more detailed, making them or sending them to their room. Perfect. They love being on their own. They'll read a book, whereas you've got a child who's much more relationship focused, that they'll hate that. So it's a great form of discipline. So understanding the different personalities is such a big step, because again, it's not being personal. It's actually about their natural flow. And what comes naturally to them. And if they also understand that for themselves, they can actually start to say no to things that are not going to serve them, the things that they're not naturally going to be able to excel at. So when it comes to choices about subjects or university or whatever, the knowledge of what is their natural flow, what they can be most trusted to do, is absolutely invaluable. So it's a two-way thing. It helps the family to better understand each other, and it also helps the young person to make better choices, which in turn leads to greater self-confidence, self-esteem, and I've always worked with basically 3 things: the personality, the values, and the love languages or appreciation. But I've recently been adding self-esteem, because I think we have quite a self-esteem issue in Australia. And you can have 2 people with very similar personalities, but their level of self-esteem will make a huge difference. And that's where the self-esteem is really which leads us to the problems of mental health or drug addiction or behavioral issues.
That seems, and I think we're going to have to get you back another day, because that whole the dynamics of it, and getting, and almost the whole family, so the whole family can work better together, and it's going to create better outcomes for like school, for university, and for the young person's life, basically, and how we can all interact together. So I think we've got to get you back on that one, if you don't mind.
Oh, I'd love to. As I say, I'm passionate about this subject because it made a huge difference to my life. And really, just to give you a bit of background, when Stephen and I got together and we had 6 children, 2 of whom had come from an expatriate background where cash flow really wasn't a big problem, to a family of 4 children where the father was the only wage earner. There was such a difference in their growing up that trying to put them together created some real unforeseen problems. And it was then that I realized that these tools that I was using in the workplace, like the personality profiling, by having the personalities all assessed for the 6 children, it just made so many things more obvious. And so whereas one of the children, who's very much a visual learner, thinks very fast on their feet, they were really struggling with, being pushed towards maths and really detailed stuff. Once we understood what their personality was, we completely changed the way that we parented them.
Yeah, and I can see how that would really, and it's really important. So many different things come into all this. So anyway, so I am conscious of time today, and being my first one, I don't want to overtime my podcast and then get cut off. So how can people get in touch with you, Gillian? How can people actually engage with you and learn a little bit more about what you're doing?
Okay, well, I can talk to somebody. I like to have an introductory chat over the phone. So they can contact me by email, which is Gillian with a G, Gillian, at love2last.co. Or you can contact me through the website familyrelationshipdynamics.com, and we can talk about what would best help you, and then we could structure something. My most popular product that I offer is the Family Unpack, and that is where I do the assessments for all the family. Then I put a family report together, and then we have a family meeting, and that can be done by Zoom, or it can be done in person. Depends on where people are.
Okay.
So so there's a lot that I can help families with.
Great, and I will certainly put all the links to your websites and your emails in our group and in the bio and things like that, so people can definitely get a link to you, because I just think it's fabulous. It always gives me goosebumps to think that we can have a way to structure this and not do it on our own and be completely blind, and get support, because that's what our Wise Tribe's about. It's about supporting each other through all these life's sidewinders. So thank you so much, Gillian.
So if I was to leave one piece of advice, and that is, it's quality, not quantity, and it's about not taking it personally, and actually put yourself in the position of the person you're communicating with, or you need to communicate with, or you're struggling with, to try to see it from their view of the world, and then you can make your decisions how you approach them.
That's great. That's in a nutshell. That's awesome, and that's something I'll be thinking about for today, for sure. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us on our first podcast for our Wise Tribe, and I know I will be getting you back, because I think this is such an important topic that we all need a bit of guidance on. So I honor you. Thank you so much for being my first guest, and we will certainly be in touch soon. And good luck with everything. And everybody just take everything on board that Gillian said, and I'll put all the links to how you can contact her and go from there.
Thanks very much, Claire. It's been my pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you, Gillian. Bye-bye.
Bye.